You selling anything?
Just myself, I'm for sale.
Nice for sale?
I'm not cheap either. I'll have you know that.
Do we want to introduce ourselves, or do we just want to jump
You
in?
picking up on the microphone?
I don't know, but I'm pretty loud, so I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, the room is.
Yeah, the
is
room's
good
so
enough to
small.
where
Let me know if I can tweak it.
Echo.
We don't want to have any more checking audio and things.
Everything will be all right. In the words of Pliny the Elder, shortly before he perished in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius.
So, before we start, everybody knows this is about 1970s TV, right? Okay, just want to be sure we're clear on that. Don, you want to introduce yourself, or?
Well, my name's Don Harden. I'm a friend of Anthony Taylor's, and I run the screening room over here. Run 16mm films. I run the television episodes and cartoons in daytime, and then Hugh Thomas comes in at night and runs some of the classic Hammer films and all of the things that people really like. So anyway, Anthony said, "Why don't you go one of my panels?" And I said, "Sure, join us."
That's how I ended up here.
Why don't you do the 70s genre show? Sure. I don't know what to say, but we'll just go ahead and wing it. Let's go with it. Let's run with it. Let's go.
I'm Ron Nastrom. I've been doing conventions way too long. My first one was in 1980. Either running them myself or with other people or for other people. I did 5 in this hotel, so it's kind of weird to be back here. With no context, I was kissed on my 30th birthday by Michelle Nichols and David Hedison in this hotel at the same time. Yeah.
Pictures.
Oh, I have. And like Don, Anthony said, "Hey, you want to do a panel on 70s TV?" And I said, "Well, I remember the 70s, so obviously I did it wrong. So yeah, I got plenty of memories of TV." I'm going to run down a list of everything, and then to refresh everybody's memories that we can talk about. But yeah, this is hopefully you guys have plenty of questions.
Hi. Simply hi. I'm Tom Hallick, that's my name. It's my first time here. The first time I've done a convention.
First convention at all?
Well, I did one about 30 years ago, and it was just my cup of tea. And, Jim here called me, and then I talked to Anthony, and they told me what a wonderful event this was, and they talked me into coming, so I did. They contacted me because of when I first got to LA in 1969, my first series, I had a very small part in a series called Search with Buzz Burgess Meredith and Doug McClure, Hugh O'Brien, and Tony Francios. How Francios never kept working is beyond me. Is he used to continually punch out directors that he was working with. I'm not kidding. And I had my part in that was they're coming in on Station XYZ, sir, real heavy stuff like that. And I did that, and then did a lot of stuff. I did a guest star on every show in town. And my longest job was in 1973. I was on the very first scene of the very first episode of The Young and the Restless in 1973. The show I did, soaps I did for 20 years. 30 pages of dialogue every day. People say, "How did you do that?" I said, "For money." I said, "I can't do that. Find another line of work." I mean, I don't know how I did it either, but, you know, a show like NCIS, they maybe do 7 or 8 pages a day. We were doing 30 pages a day, and a feature, if you're lucky, they knock out 1 or 2 pages a day. Which we were doing in 2 days, where feature films take 6 months. Or if you're Stanley Kubrick, 5 years. So,
That was pretty much live on tape, wasn't it? It's like
Live on
when
tape.
they started the show, it went from beginning to end for the most part, unless
Yeah.
something really bad happened.
that's exactly.
And my neighbor was the audio tech for all my children.
All my kids.
So, yeah. he was
I played
awesome.
Susan Lucci's husband in a,
Did you?
yeah, what the hell was that show? One of Daniel Steele's Secrets, remember that?
Yeah, I bought it.
With, what's his name? My brain is leaving me. Christopher Plummer. Yeah, he was in it, and Susan, who was a tiny little thing, she's like 4'11", and her husband's like 8 feet tall. I'm trying to picture that one, that's, yeah, so. Yeah, so then I guest starred at every show in town, and that brings me here.
And I'm Mike Inslee. I guess I'm first and foremost the owner of Vincicon in Pensacola, Florida, going into our 13th year next year. But I'm also a nationally syndicated through PBS horror host. We're in 23 markets at the moment, I think, but also available on the PBS app for free, so you can watch the shows. There's 52 episodes up there right now, and who knows if we'll get more. But yeah, the world's kind of a crazy place right now, but yeah, that's who I am.
So, real quick, I'm gonna just run down all the genre shows that were on in the 70s. Daytime, nighttime and daytime. And just let the memories click in your head. I'm gonna start with 69 and 70, and you'll see how things change as far as genre, you know, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, those kinds of shows on TV from the 60s to 1980. So 69, 70, we had Land of the Giants, Mission Impossible, I Dream of Jeannie, Nanny and the Professor, The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, Get Smart, The Flying Nun, and Bewitched. 70, 71, now some of these were on still after that, but like new to the season. 70, 71 was The Immortal, The Sixth Sense, Night Gallery, and UFO was syndicated in 1970, 71. 1971, 1972, nothing. There was no new, I mean, some of the other shows from the 60s were still hanging on, but there was no new genre show. I mean, you still had the westerns, you still had the medical, the legal stuff, but there were no new genres, sci-fi oriented stuff. Then 72, 73 was Ghost Story and Genesis 2 TV movie. 73, 74 was $6 Million Man, The Star Lost in syndication, and the Quester Tapes movie. 74, 75, Kolchak the Night Stalker, Planet of the Apes, and Planet Earth TV movie, which was kind of like Gene Roddenberry's attempt to get Genesis 2 done again on a different network. I guess maybe they didn't watch NBC. 75, 76 was The Invisible Man, Wonder Woman, Bionic Woman, Future Cop, Space 1999, and UFO Incident. Then 76, 77 was everybody's favorite, Holmes and Yo-Yo. Gemini Man, Fantastic Journey, Quark, In Search of started in syndication, and Gene Roddenberry's TV movie Spectre. Then 77, 78 was Logan's Run, Man from Atlantis, The Amazing Spider-Man, The Incredible Hulk, Tabitha, Fantasy Island. Then 78, 79 was Galactica, Salvage One, Cliffhangers, Super Train. Let's give it up for Super Train. Mork and Mindy, Time Express, Project UFO, and Turnabout. I'm probably the only one in here that remembers Turnabout. Then we had 79, 80 was Galactica 1980, which kind of tagged in with the end of the decade. Struck by Lightning, Beyond Westworld, and Buck Rogers. And then Saturday mornings, I'm just go all the way through. We've got HR Puffin Stuff, The Banana Splits Adventures, Lancelot Link, Bugaloos, Lidsville, nothing new live action on Saturday mornings in 72 and 73. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, Shazam, Land of the Lost, Lost Saucer, ISIS, Far Out Space Nuts, Ghostbusters, the live action one, Croft Super Show, Arc 2, Monster Squad, Skatebirds, Space Academy, Bigfoot and Wild Boy, and Jason the Star Command. Now, almost everything I listed after the 60s probably only lasted, if at most, one season. The 70s was for science fiction, horror, and fantasy was almost like a desert. And whatever did get on, like even $6 Million Man and stuff, it was all very James Bondy. It was very grounded in reality. Saturday morning, gave you a little bit more as far as the fantasy stuff goes, but I was aging out by like midway through the 70s on that stuff. Although I still watched like Shazam and ISIS because comic booky. But it's just and it really picks up after Star Wars in '77. But even then, a lot of it didn't last on TV very long. It was like not even a whole season or a half a season. It was like 6-8 episodes and they were gone. So what do you remember about working in the 70s as far as?
I remember every second of it.
You remember every second,
Yeah.
and then you did it wrong too.
I did it very wrong. I mean, doing a soap that was my longest job, as I mentioned.
Was it what, yeah, it was 73.
Young and the Restless,
Yeah.
73, not 83, 93.
Something like that.
20 years, somewhere in there, 20 years of soap opera, 20 years of 30 pages a day. But in between, I did The Time Travelers, which was 78, Irwin Allen.
Oh, that I knew I forgot
That was
one on
another
here. It was a TV movie, The Time Traveler.
Yeah.
It was trying to revitalize, redo
It was
Time
the
Tunnel.
number one. It was
Yeah,
the
I remember
number one
watching that.
TV movie,
Yeah.
ABC Friday Night TV,
Mhm.
or whatever the hell it was. And it was the number one show. But a producer named Fred Silverman, I don't know if that name means anything to you, but he went from NBC over to ABC. And because Time Travelers wasn't his show,
Oh, really?
he didn't pick it up.
He
I would have been a huge
He
star.
did greenlight the pilot.
Exactly, green light, and it was the number one show.
Yeah, I remember it. It was good.
Great show. And then Irwin hired me again to do Return of Captain Nemo.
Oh, shoot, that was another one.
That was 3, you forgot that one too.
I did. I also, yeah.
We did three 2-hour,
Yeah,
so
I
6
remember-
hours
I
in it
remember watching it when it came on.
with
Yeah.
Joe Ferrer and Buzz Meredith.
Mhm. It was like, what, 77, 78, somewhere around there? Yeah. I think that's what it was.
Exactly that one.
I think that's about what it
It
was.
was a really good show. That's a big lot of production in that show. And that was a big disappointment for
What did you-
Irwin.
I was gonna say, what did you think of working with Irwin? How was it? Because I know a lot of people, actors that worked with him in the 60s on like Lost in Space.
And said what?
You go first.
Well, thank you. Irwin-
I will, their impression of him was he was like a little kid on the set without the sets.
Yeah.
And everything for him was about how does the set look, and didn't really care what the actors were doing.
Well,
Is that being kind?
I liked him.
Yeah. Oh, no, they did too.
I
It was
liked
just,
him. He was a tough guy.
yeah.
He was a tough guy, and a lot of people were scared of him. A lot of people were definitely afraid of him.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
he could really,
Oh, yeah, if you got
Yeah,
on his
like-
bad side, yeah.
he would bring you right out down on stage. But we get along well. I loved him, he loved me. Why wouldn't he? They called me one take Tom.
There you go. Well, he would love, he definitely loved that.
Yeah, I mean, my background is theater. I've got over 100 plays. And after, when I was doing 30 pages of it, so coming in and doing a TV show was nothing. As far as learning lines, I boom, 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 boom. I had to show one take and it's done. Didn't have to he loved that. They would have to retake.
Definitely.
So I did that, and what else? There was, another show that might interest you. I did a show called Hawkins on Murder. Have any of you even heard of
Is
this?
that the one with Jimmy Stewart?
Jimmy Stewart. Mr. Stewart, who was a great man. He loved me, I loved him. Everybody loves Jimmy Stewart, for God's sake. And I think they shot one or two, and that was it. I don't know if it
Yeah,
aired.
it was like a mystery movie, so they don't invested a year because he
This
didn't.
is Jimmy Stewart, and they never even aired the damn thing.
No, they did air it,
Did they?
and you can get it at, I think Warner Archives has it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Amazing. It just, I mean, why they didn't pick up that is,
Yeah, well, it was like a mystery movie, it's like McLeod and McMillan and Wife and stuff, but after, they only did it 1 year because Jimmy Stewart didn't want to do it anymore, is what I heard.
well, that could be, that
But it
could
was a
be,
good,
but
I mean, it was a
Mr.
good
Stewart
show.
was such
Yeah.
I can't imagine that, because he loved working, he would do it if it was successful, he would keep working, and he was so nice to me, huge, there's no bigger star in the world than Jimmy Stewart. And, you know, when we do the Ronnie Ronnies, anybody, you know what I'm talking about? Anybody? Okay, when you're doing film, unlike a soap opera where you're on videotape and boom, it's going right there. 3 cameras and you shoot the whole damn thing in one day. We were taking 8-10 days to shoot a show, a half-hour show, an hour show, whatever it was. And they'd shoot your scene, and then they'd turn the camera around and they'd shoot Steve's scene over here. And they got to relight, do the whole thing, and that takes a couple hours. You don't get paid for the acting, you get paid for the waiting around. But Mr. Stewart, I'll never forget, he'd sit there and he would, he'd sit on an apple box for me to do my words, you know, for the scene. When I was doing my line for him, he'd do his lines for me. A lot of actors wouldn't do that. If you remember Dynasty, remember Dynasty? I did about 8 of those. All of my stuff was with Forsythe, a really nice guy. But what's her name was in it?
Joan Collins.
Thank you very much, Joan. Gosh, what a piece of work she wouldn't do that for the actors, especially if it was a good-looking female actress who would come on. She wouldn't do the roundy. She'd go into her trailer and sit there and let a script girl do the lines. Well, if you know anything about acting, I'm sure you people must know something about her. You wouldn't be here. You can't get the same feel for the scene, you know, doing your words with a script girl. Nothing against the script girl, but she wasn't an actress. Collins didn't care. She went into her trailer, and it didn't matter to her that it hurt the show, as long as she didn't have to do it.
That's got to break the emotional connection
Oh, it breaks everything.
between the characters.
It does.
It's almost like a screen test.
I could
where
never,
you just have.
I remember that to this day, you know, we're talking 30 some odd years ago, 40 years ago, however long that was. But I've never forgotten that, and I've never forgiven her for being that way. Of course, she doesn't care at that time. Yeah, that's what you had to deal with. You got a difference. The difference there was somebody like Jimmy Stewart and Joan Collins, totally different work ethic, total way of approaching being a star.
You said most of your scenes are with Mr. Forsythe, and he was the one that did the roundy round.
Oh, yeah,
He did that.
John did, he was in the swell, sweet guy. Yeah, I did all my stuff with him. And, I never had a scene with Joan, thank God. didn't have to deal with that. But the rest, everybody else was, I mean, Joe Ferrera was just a prince. Just the most interesting guy, one of the most interesting guys I've ever worked with. He was a poet as well. He really took a liking to me, and most of my stuff was with him. If you watch Nemo, here's another big star, huge star. It's the sweetest guy ever. And he was a poet, and he wrote a lot of poetry. A lot of body poetry. I mean, I'm talking seriously body stuff. And he wrote one, a description of a woman's anatomy that I have framed and put in my office. It's just classic. And we remained friends for his life till he died in 94 or something like that. Passed away. He's buried in Puerto Rico, where he was from. Really nice guy. He became director of the Coconut Grove Playhouse down in Miami. Did that for a while. And I missed doing a play down there. I did plays at the Burt Reynolds Theater in Palm Beach, and all those, that whole theater circuit, dinner theater.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, John Forsythe just had one of those voices.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's not a lot, but he was one of those voices that you couldn't,
You
could
recognize
never,
it
instantly, and nobody could ever duplicate it.
No.
If you wanted someone that sounded like John Forsythe, you had to get John Forsythe.
Like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sure, yeah. This gentleman was.
Yeah, I just, as you ran through that list of television series, a good number of them were completely forgotten. They were short. Because they were so short-lived.
Yeah.
The question then comes up: was there a higher percentage of science fiction projects that would get canceled out of the gate than, say, non-genre stuff in the '70s?
Probably.
My memory is that there was always a lot of there were a lot of cancellations in those years, just rapid fire. Just seemed to be that a show would pop up and disappear.
They didn't give him a chance.
Yeah. It'd be, if it didn't hit, I don't know what the magic ratings number would have been, but if you felt it either, then it was the axe immediately. So I didn't know if I didn't know if the expense, the special effects budgets or whatever would drive a budget up on a show like that would factor into it or not. Sometimes I'm sure it would be hard to tell, but is the percentage, is there a way to know if the percentage of genre stuff getting
I've never
canceled?
really researched that, like what shows were like in development or pilot stage and just never made it. I know one, and a lot of times they won't even bother with the effects if it gets canceled. Like, and sometimes they just cancel while they're filming, and that happened with Lost in Space back in the '90s. John Woo was doing a Lost in Space pilot, and he filmed all the live action stuff, and they were starting on the effects and just minimal effects, and they just canceled it. It never got seen.
Never finished.
And they never finished. I mean, I've seen it. It's like you can find it online, but
A lot of it is politics.
yeah, and
A lot of it is politics. Did any of you ever see The Time Travelers? You saw The Time Travelers?
Yes.
It's an extra on the Time Tunnel DVDs.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really
no,
good-
that's a different one that's on there.
No, Time Travelers, the one he was in.
Yeah,
So he's not-
is that on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know
It's
they
on
had-
the DVD and on a
I
Blu-ray.
knew they had the
that
pilot,
was in.
they had a newer pilot that was on. there.
That's on there too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was a really good show
Yeah.
with a lot of great effects in it. And they were ready to go on and do all those special effects and all that stuff. Because you're traveling back in time to a different place, a different set, that you had to construct and do all that. They were going to do that. And our show, The Time Travelers, it was an ABC TV movie. I think it was a Friday night TV movie. Yeah, ABC. And it was the #1 rated show on television. And Fred Sullivan, who was a huge producer back then. He was on NBC. They used to have musical producers and musical directors. And Fred moved from NBC over to ABC after we had shot The Time Travelers. And this wasn't his show. So he put the kibosh on it. Didn't matter if it was a number one, didn't matter any of that stuff. Politics. It wasn't his show. Never went on the air. And we did the pilot, that aired, but that was it. They didn't pick it up. And that would have made it, I would have been a huge star on that if they had picked that up, because it was such a great show. And we were so good at it. It was that too.
Well, it was like kind of the best of both worlds. It was an anthology, so you weren't doing the same thing every week. And you
Yeah,
were
right.
going to different time periods and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, the first go-around for that in 67, you know, it didn't do bad in the ratings, but they were having trouble, you know, finding a good audience for it. I think in the 70s it would have worked better for some reason, but it just didn't click with the other shows that Irwin did at the time.
Well, our show was on in the 70s.
Yeah, but
the original Time Travel,
Oh,
Time Travel,
60s, yeah, the original.
Oh,
And it didn't quite click with viewers the way his other three shows did. And, you know, it was only on for the one season. And I think a big reason for it was he caved into the pressures of his other shows and started turning it into like a science fiction show with like outer space stuff and aliens and things, instead of keeping it the time travel through history.
Yeah.
And he was trying.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and like halfway through the season, he started, I don't know whether it was the network or what, and changing it around. But like the first few episodes were, they go back to World
Are we boring you?
I'm recording Anthony Taylor's panel, and I got a
How are you?
turns off after 30 minutes. I have to
Do we call Anthony Tony? Did anybody call him Tony?
I've known him. I've known him for over 45 years.
No, gonna call him Tony?
I'll tell you this.
Thank you for telling me.
Early on when I knew him, he went by Andy Taylor.
Andy?
Don't tell him I said that.
I won't, believe me.
But, no, like in the earlier episodes, which is probably what they would have done with your version, you know, they went back to Pompeii, they went to Pearl Harbor on December 6th, and one of the characters had to make the choice of, do I save my father, who was killed at Pearl Harbor? And he ended up having to let his father die to keep history the same.
Rude.
Yeah.
Extremely rude.
But yeah, and then, you know, like I said, after halfway point, they started having like space aliens and
It
started the moon. And,
Very expensive
yeah.
going from, you know, out west to Pearl Harbor and building those sets and doing it. It's very expensive. And a lot of it, like I said before, is politics. Most of these guys that are running networks, that are responsible for whether a show airs or not, are cretins. They're total morons. These guys, most of these guys are shoe salesmen. They've never acted, they've never produced, they've never directed anything. They're guys coming from, like I said, from some business that has nothing to do with show business. And they have no clue about what they're doing, which is why you saw a lot of crap on television. And a lot of shows like, some of our shows didn't make it.
Yeah.
Because some guy upstairs.
Instead of letting it find an audience. I mean,
Yeah.
like Cheers was bottom of the barrel at first, but for some reason, there was a network executive that let it stay. And it finally caught on. But you wonder how many shows got yanked before they really found their target audience.
Some guy's kid is a famous story. One famous producer's kid loved this show. My brain's leaving me.
I've heard
And
this story.
they picked up this series because his 8-year-old loved it. And that's a true story.
And the opposite was CBS. They were getting rid of, I can't remember what show it was, they were gonna get rid of
Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke.
And they
And
canceled Golden Island
the
instead.
executives, the network executive's wife said, you can't get rid of Gunsmoke, so they kept Gunsmoke, and what did they get rid of?
Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island, yeah, they got rid of Gilligan's Island. and
Well, I'll
saved
tell you another
Gunsmoke.
one.
And I think they made the good choice.
You know, Murder, She Wrote, I did about 8 Murder, She Wrote, which you could still see if you stay up late at night. It was on that 2 nights ago. That show was the #1 show CBS had, Murder, She Wrote. And Angela was such a great lady. I had never met her, I never worked with her. The first show I did was at, what's the hotel that Bobby Kennedy had shot in?
Oh,
Ambassador.
The Ambassador, thank you very much. It was at the Ambassador Hotel. And I walked in and there was about 200 extras. I walk in the room and Angela's sitting in the corner and she sees me. All the way across the room. Now, I've never met her. She strolls across the room, gives me a big hug and says, "Hi, Tom, welcome to the show."
Wow.
And she made me, an actor, who I've never met her,
Yeah.
made me feel welcome
Wow.
to her show. I've never forgotten that, what a great lady she was. And that is another CBS show. And you know why that show's not on? Her show, she was making a fortune. She and her husband was an exec producer. She made her husband an exec producer. He got a fat salary. He was getting like $100,000 a week, and she was getting $250,000 a week, $250,000 a week. And you combine that and all the other stuff, you're talking $500,000 a week. And CBS was making a pile of money. And all of a sudden, we hear the show is being canceled. And nobody can understand why.
I think they killed off all the actors, I'm not sure.
It did run for 12 years, so.
I was still,
You kill 30 actors a year,
it was still
somebody's gonna
hot.
have to figure it
I
out.
was still making great ratings. And somebody went to Angela and said, "You know, why? Did you leave the show?" She said, "No, I didn't leave. It wasn't my idea to leave." I said, "Well, why is the show off?" True story. You know what she said? "Nobody asked me to stay."
Wow.
Not one of the dumb CBS executives had the brains go up and ask Angela Lansbury, the star of the show, "Do you want to do another season?" And she just said, "Yes, of course." No, some idiot, they just, they didn't ask her.
They did do 4 TV movies after that, though, after it was canceled.
That really pissed me off.
What that meant was that somebody somewhere realized, oh, holy hell, we just killed a golden cat.
Yeah.
What have we done?
Yeah.
You know, and so, well, and the thing is,
And these people
Lansbury,
still had jobs.
Yeah.
They still, nobody fired them. They can't fire themselves, which they won't do, because they're all getting fat and rich.
well, Lansbury was famous once she gained control of the show.
Yeah.
She used that show for over a decade to make sure that all these older actors were getting jobs and therefore keeping their insurance
Yep.
because they were working. And so she would bring them on, even for just small roles in an episode, once every 2 years.
You always had some of these older
Re-up,
stars,
yeah.
Nina Foch, all these big
Yeah.
stars. Love Boat did that.
Mhm.
Love Boat was famous for that, bringing on, what's his name, who produced it?
Aaron Spelling.
Aaron Spelling.
Yeah.
Thank you, God. Yeah, I'm getting CRS.
That's-
Can't remember, what. Yeah, she kept a lot of people employed. I did eight episodes, 8 murder shows, playing different characters, guest starring. And Love Boat, I did the same thing with Love Boat.
That's a lot of love.
You want to hear a story on Love Boat?
Sure.
Okay.
I should have put that on here, because that's kind of.
That's not on there either, Love Boat.
Fantasy Island.
It's
Fantasy
Fantasy
Island.
Island, jeez.
Wow, gee.
I
I was a slacker.
Well, Love Boat would be fantasy, right?
So what, tell us the Love Boat story.
Well, one of the shows I was on,
You'll
I would- Stephen, we're trying to do a show.
Sorry.
Are we interrupting?
You know, we don't,
Now,
one of the guest stars on the show, it was Frank Sinatra Jr.
Mhm.
Frank was playing, of course, a singer and band leader, blah, blah, blah. Frank Jr. could sing, but he wasn't like his dad. And you get to know a guy, you work on the show, and you get to know him. So Frank Jr. and I became friends. So he was over in Vegas, he'd always worked the small room. One year, he's gonna work the big room, and he invites me. So I go. I'm sitting in the front row. Curtain goes up, the orchestra starts playing, 80-piece orchestra. Frank Jr. comes out, belts out a couple of lines in the back room. His dad walks in. Oh, jeez. And yet, drunk as a skunk, and yells at the top of his lungs, "The kid's not ready."
Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
That's a nice blow to the ego.
Can you imagine the father doing that to his own son? Frank's, I mean, the greatest entertainer in the history of the world is Frank Sinatra, but he was a strange guy. You remember the Dinah Shore show? There's another show from the 70s. Our show, I was voted #1 actor in daytime TV for 3 years in a row. From Daytime TV Magazine and TV by Day Magazine. That was voted by the people. Our show was shot right across the hall from the Dinah Shore show. Another daytime show. I couldn't get on that show. I said, "What the hell is this? I'm a big star in daytime? This is a daytime show?" And they didn't want to hear. I had my agent call, my manager called, I had my lawyer. That time I had everybody. And called, nothing. I said, "Well, screw this." So I used to play, this is a good story. I used to play trumpet in my high school band. So I grabbed my horn. Their rehearsal hall was down the hall from us on the 3rd floor of TV City. And I strolled down the hall. I burst into the room. There's 100 people sitting there. Dinah, Les Sinclair, the producer, and 100 other people. I stepped in, the room goes silent. I didn't say a word. I picked up the horn and I blew. Put the horn down. Gave him a look. Turned around and walked out the door. Sinclair says, "Who the hell was that?" That soap opera guy. Book him. I did 11 Dinah Shore shows. That's the kind of stuff you had to do. So one time, they asked me, I had just come back from a trip to Africa, and they said, "You want to go to Vegas with us next week?" I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "You want to sing?" I said, "Yeah, okay." I've never sung in front of anybody before in my life. I've now volunteered to sing in the Ziegfeld room with the Dinah Shore in front of 500 people and 40 million people at home. So I go and I sing and everything's great. I sing with on stage with Shecky Green. You know who Shecky Green is? Funniest guy in the world. He does a clean show. Not as funny as Rickles, who was an opposite, is also hysterically funny, but dirty as hell. And Buddy Hackett, who's the funniest, and Hackett's totally blue. So on stage with Shecky Green, Mel Torme, Don Rickles, and Dinah Shore. And Shecky tells the story of how Frank Sinatra saved his life. Have any of you ever heard this story? I'll bet you haven't. No, you haven't. Nobody's heard this story. But this is a true story. Shecky used to open for Frank. And he's supposed to do 15 minutes and get off, you know. They didn't want to be the opening act to get bigger than the star, right? Well, if you've ever seen Shecky, Shecky's amazing. He gets on stage, he's going nuts. The audience goes crazy, 15, 20, 40 minutes go by. And the boys come by and say, "Hey, we told you 15 minutes. You're doing a midnight show. That's it." They say, "Okay." The midnight show comes, 15 minutes, 20, 30, 40 more minutes go by. And the boys grab him, this was at Caesar's, they take him back in the parking lot, in the back, and they beat him up. And he's on the ground, they're kicking him, and Frank walks over and says, "Okay, boys, that's enough." And that's how Frank Sinatra saved my life. He told that story on national television, as I'm telling it to you right now, and he never worked again. That was the end of his career. Because he does clubs, and Frank put the kibosh on that deal, so Shaky couldn't get a job. That's a story about Sinatra that not too many people know, but Frank's not here now to defend himself, so I can tell that story.
Or do have people beat you up, so.
Yeah, there was, when I was doing, I don't know if any of you know, I was the first host of Entertainment Tonight.
I was gonna ask you about that. I'd love to hear about that. That's how I know you.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
when Jim told me that you were gonna be here. And
I was the first host of that show.
Yeah.
And everybody said I was the best host, I was the best thing they'd ever seen, blah, blah, blah. And I agreed with them, because but it was one day I was in Nice, interviewed David Niven, and 2 days later I'm in Provo with the Osmonds. I mean, it was like, do you ever wake up and not know where you are? I mean, that was me. Well, my job this one particular week was to interview Siegfried and Roy. You know who they are, Siegfried and Roy. Their show in Vegas was absolutely the greatest show you've ever seen. They would make the 600-pound white Bengal tiger sitting like from me to this front, just disappear in front of you. So the deal was, I go to see the show the night before, and there's 50 naked girls in front, which of course I'm looking at, but behind them there's this 600-pound white Bengal tiger, and the thing just disappeared. And the next morning I'm to interview them. So I go, at that time they had the top floor of the Frontier Hotel, was their apartment. So I'm sitting on a couch, I got a handheld mic like this, I got a mic here, and I'm talking to Roy over here, and Siegfried's here, blah, blah, blah. And we're talking, all of a sudden I see this thing coming out of the corner of my eye, and I look over, and it's the 600-pound white Bengal tiger. And it's got the run of the place. And I must have been sitting on his favorite couch. The tiger comes padding over to moi, crawls up over the side of the couch, crawls right on top of me, plops down, and starts to purr. Have you ever heard a 600-pound tiger purr? It sounded like an 800-horse outboard, Evinrude outboard motor. And I'm allergic to cats, so after about 5 minutes, I started sneezing and wheezing the whole thing. But I don't miss a beat. I got the mic over the back of the tiger, and I'm talking to them back and forth. Paramount said it was the best thing they'd ever seen. Wouldn't that be the best thing you've ever seen? Yeah. Did you ever see that? They aired it. That was aired.
I don't remember.
You would remember that one if you'd seen it. But I was, why am I not doing Entertainment Tonight, you ask?
Yeah.
I'll tell you just quickly. I used to tell jokes to the crew when we were shut down, not on the air. When we were shut down, I'm telling the guys joke, and I will never forget this. Because one of my friends who was the VP at NBC told me, finally a year later, why I got fired from Entertainment Tonight. I told a gay joke. I will never forget the joke. It was like something like, do you hear about the two gay lawyers? They want to try each other? You know, shit like that. That's what that was, you know. And Barry Diller, do you know who that is?
Yeah.
#1 mogul in La La Land. I think at that time he ran Universal and Paramount. He was, and he's gay. At that time he was married to Diane von Furstenberg. She was his beard. And he didn't like the fact that I told a gay joke. It was a joke. He just said, get rid of that guy. And that was the end. When my contract was up, and I was gone. I didn't know why. I had no idea why I was fired. And I found out a year later why I was fired. So there's no such thing as free speech. and you better make sure you're not telling gay jokes when there's some gay guy who's running the joint, who used to throw telephones at people he didn't like in his office. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Any other questions?
Questions?
Yeah, Search was on from 72 to 73, and it was kind of a science fiction type show. Do you have any memories of that?
Only the story I told Jim here, and Andy.
That's between you and me.
Or Tony, Anthony, that Franciosa,
Yeah.
I witnessed him punching out a director.
Yeah, I've heard stories about it.
I mean, that I couldn't, but I was low man on the totem pole, I wasn't gonna say anything. I liked working, I liked my job, I didn't wanna get fired from that, so
Yeah, that was another one that only lasted a year.
that guy.
What about there was a movie called The Astronaut that R. Bennett produced in 1972 with had Monty Markham and Jackie Cooper
Oh, yeah,
and Robert Lansing.
yeah, I remember that. I wasn't in that.
Yes, you were.
I was?
It's on YouTube.
The astronaut, geez, I must have had a bit part in that.
Yeah, you were the security guard.
Oh, thank you.
Agent Wilson.
Yeah.
Agent Wilton?
Wilson.
I have no idea.
Well, I think it's interesting.
At that point, I was doing, I'm sorry, at that point, I was doing a lot of small roles. When you start off, they put you on a small role. And if they like you and you don't screw it up, they keep hiring you. Pretty soon the roles get bigger and bigger and bigger until you're doing 30 pages a day, you know. So that's what that was.
You don't have to remember it as long as the check cleared.
Right.
Checks are clear. Checks are clear. I'm still getting checks. I got do you remember Mannix?
Yeah.
Mannix, I did a bunch of those. And Mike Connors was a real sweetheart.
Yeah.
And he would be in a golf buddy of mine. He's passed away, unfortunately. I remember telling we would get residual checks from that show. And one time, I was playing golf with Mike, and I said, Mike, I just got another residual check from Mannix. I said, this was for a quarter, 25 cents. He said, that's nothing, Tom. I got one for a nickel. And he's the star of the show.
Costs some more to sell you.
So it's the more to send a check than yeah.
Well, the residuals is what got a lot of shows in the 60s canceled. From what the kids that were on the Addams Family, I did a panel with them, and they were saying that like the Addams Family, Munsters, and a bunch of other shows that were getting ready to do another season. It's like the Addams Family and the Munsters were both going to be switching to color, and they were doing all this other stuff. And then new policies went into place on residuals, because they weren't getting they were only getting like 2 rerun showings in their contracts of the episodes, and then that was it. So when they went into syndication, they didn't get anything.
Right.
And when the rules started changing, instead of renegotiating the actors' contracts, they just canceled the show. Even though
Another reason shows get canceled if you don't know why.
even though they were hit shows that everybody watched, and they were like, well, we'll just syndicate the package we have, and we won't have to pay them anything for it. So they reran it twice, and they got their residuals, and then that was it. They didn't get anything for the the Addams Family. I mean, everybody watched the Addams Family, and every kid watched it in the afternoon when you got home from school for decades. And
What was the Cheers when they had the fight? Which one was better, the Addams Family or the Munsters?
Monsters. Yeah, I mean, I watched both of them, and I was a kid. I didn't know anything about residuals or anything, but it was just like, yeah, they were hit shows, and one of the reasons was because they instead of renegotiating a contract to pay the actors more, for a fair value, they just were like, oh, we'll just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times that's why shows don't last very long, because they don't want to keep paying residuals for them. Even into the 70s, is, you know, it's like, well, you know, we don't have enough to syndicate it, because you really need 100 episodes to syndicate a
That's
TV
right,
show.
that's exactly right.
So if they only do 2 seasons, and back then it was like 25 to 30 episodes a season, they have 60 episodes, and they can't syndicate it, but they got their money up front from the advertisers while it was on prime time, and paid for the show, and then just moved on to something else. So yeah, it is a business.
Well, that's why you wonder, like shows like a 2.5 Men, one of my favorites. I mean, why they were paying Charlie Sheen, he was getting $1 million an episode. $1 million an episode. And then residuals, and then the reruns, the first year of reruns goes off, you get 50% of your original salary. So if you get $1 million, he's getting $500,000 for a rerun.
For every episode.
Every episode. So it's going down, it goes down and down, exponentially down, 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 until it comes back again over a certain period. I don't know the exact, I can't tell you. I have it, but I don't know the exact time. But guys like Sheen, I mean, that show was the most perfectly cast and the funniest show on television to me. It was just great. John Cryer and all those characters, they were all fabulous. And then Sheen goes, and because he was on drugs half the time, I remember physically carrying him to an event, two other guy, and here's Sheen, here's me, and there's another guy on that side carrying him into this place. He was totally stoned, out of his mind, drugs, all drugs. And calling out Chuck Lorre, who's the greatest writer on television, calling him every name in the book. As many of you may know this.
Literally shot himself.
Yeah, he fired him.
Yeah.
How could a guy put up with a producer, put up with that kind of stuff? A gift. You give him a gift.
No, I agree.
Why?
That show was so-
How many people on this planet get paid that kind of money to do something they love to do, that's fun, and then just blow it because you're stoned out of your mind, and you call your producer, the guy who's paying you, every name in the book. So they're fired.
Well, that brings up a good question. You talked about how doing the soap opera is an obscene amount of work. I mean, clearly,
Clearly.
30 pages a day, day in, day out. You know, rehearse it once, shoot it, and you're moving on? Is that about right?
We would get our scripts the night before. And we'd have to learn them that night for the next day shooting. And because we're doing an hour show every day. Like I said, you know, NCIS, they spend 10 days shooting an hour show.
I mean, it must have felt like running a daily sprint, begging for the weekend so that you get some time off. I don't know.
Well, did you love
it? That would be my question, is like, did you love it? I mean, was that much work still something that you look forward to every day?
Did I what yet?
That much work, did you still look forward? Is it something that you still loved when it was that much work day in and day out?
Yes, I did. I did love doing it, but it was just, you know, you couldn't go to an event that night or
No.
go out. You had to go home and learn your words, learn your dialogue. And people just don't understand. People come up to me all the time. Oh, do you have to learn that, or did you just kind of improv? And no, you don't improv word for word, and you got to do it pretty much the way the writers and the producers. Because a lot of times, Bill Bell, who created that show, also wrote it. It was his words. You didn't want to be doing, you know, General Hospital while you're shooting Young and Restless. So you had to learn it verbatim, pretty much like it is. Sure, you'd make mistakes, and you could fluff it over and ad-lib a little bit, but not so you go off track and you're doing. If you remember that show, Janice Lynn played my wife, a great actress. She was a terrific actress and a virtuoso piano player. And they would make her. She had to learn a goddamn symphony. the night before to play, and it was grueling. But she also, she got on, this is no secret, she was on Quaaludes half the time. And she'd come in and didn't know her lines. You cannot come in and not know your lines. And John Conboy, the producer company, says, Tom, you gotta get us through another day. She doesn't know her lines. And for an actor, to have another actor to show that you're on, the main deal, not know her lines, and to get through that, it was totally gruesome. Thank God I was young and a kid, I could do that and get through it. But they fired her after 3 years and brought in somebody else to play her role. She was a great actress and a great piano player, but I guess it was just too much for her, the way the things they asked her to do. You had to do it, or you just find another line of work.
Technically on the show, were you on set when they were doing like the camera blocking and the lighting and everything, or were you?
Well,
like
we would,
in a rehearsal before the taping, were you guys on set while they were
Yes.
doing camera blocking?
we would block, oh yeah, they'd block it and everything while you're doing it. They would block the thing, and the director's in the booth and he's yelling at you on stage and
So
what to do. So you're doing it, you get there at 7 in the morning, 6:30, 7 in the morning, rehearse and block, all morning, then have a quick bite of lunch, and then you should spend all afternoon shooting.
So that's
And go
kind of,
home and learn your lines that night for the next day, very glamorous.
that's like almost the opposite of like doing a movie or a TV show where you have stand-ins for the actors while they're doing the lighting rigs and the
Exactly.
cameras and everything.
There were no stand-ins.
Yeah.
Because it's,
So I was-
videotape is the cheapest thing to do. It's cheap.
And that's why a lot of the older shows don't have copies anymore, because they would just tape over
Videotape.
the ones, from a month before,
That's exactly
after it
right.
went out on air.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was, we would do that, and that's why daytime, we made a good living, I'm not complaining about that, we got paid well, but not like nighttime. Nighttime is the right time. TV guy did not go on me and said, my title of it was Nighttime is the Right Time, because that's where you get all the money. Daytime paid for nighttime. They made all their money, the networks made all their money on daytime shows, because it cost them nothing to shoot those shows. And they paid us to comparatively nothing. Not, like I said, I'm not complaining, because we get paid well, but not like they pay you on nighttime. Nighttime, the money is just flowing. And it's all comes in from daytime, because it costs them nothing to shoot. And all that stuff, all day long, especially game shows, and all this, it costs them nothing to shoot that stuff.
Do subs have a hiatus period, or was it just 24/7, 53 weeks a year or whatever?
That's what, there's never a break.
Never a break, yeah.
Never a break. You take your vacation like a plumber. You got a 2-week vacation, you take your vacation.
Wow.
And you're not in that period.
They would write a character out for a short
Write the
period of
character
time,
out,
and then you'd come back.
It doesn't take, you're out for 2-3 weeks, and who knows? And you're back already. I'm not looking at what happened. People don't remember.
And I know, I don't know if it was the case when you were doing it, but I know some soap actors were like, not everybody is on every day. So
Right.
some of the, like maybe the major ones are on every day, but some of the other characters only had to come in like 2 or 3 times a week sometimes.
You're kind
But
of,
it was different, it was different each week.
it depends on your contract.
Yeah.
Every actor has a different deal. My deal was 2.5, I think it was 2.5 shows a week. How do you get 2.5? Well, they work it out. Then it was 3 shows a week.
Yeah.
And then they kept raising me. But then I'd say, no, I'm not gonna come and do this 5 days a week, just to make a little more money. You just pay me more money for doing it 3 times a week. And I had to go around, I had to do it myself. I had to go down to over to Warner Brothers, where CBS had their office, and argue with the top guns of CBS. Me, a little humble actor guy, here I am, negotiating with it.
Excuse me, sir, may I have some more?
Yeah. And they're poor mouthing me about how much it costs to do,
Well, I mean,
blah, blah, blah.
You guys were doing like the equivalent of a new stage play every day.
That's exactly right.
And I mean, it was like being on stage live, even though you didn't have an audience, but you were doing the live production with a different script every day, as opposed to doing the same play, 5 nights a week or whatever.
Exactly.
So,
That's exactly it.
it was not easy. Like I said, my neighbor, was the audio tech for at ABC, and so I grew up watching all my children when I was younger. So I was kind of aware of that kind of acting as opposed to prime time.
Well, not only that, we were the first, we're getting to wrap it up.
Yeah,
I'll just tell one quick story. They asked me if I'd like to do a national tour of a play. And I said, yeah, sure, what's it gonna, Neil Simon's Plaza Suite.
Oh, jeez.
And I've done over 100 plays, all Shakespeare, I've done every comedy. My background is theater. So we went off, we were the first soap company to go off and do a major play. Made a deal with Neil, and we did Plaza Suite. And I didn't finish shooting, I had to figure this out with the producers out of the summer. So I would get finished shooting at 1 in the afternoon, be able to make a 4 o'clock flight up to Portland, be on stage Friday night doing the show, do a Saturday matinee, Saturday night show, Sunday matinee, and then fly back to be at work on Monday morning. I did that.
Learn your lines.
I learned my lines while I'm doing a play.
Yeah.
And it was great though. I had energy. I was making all this money and I'm having fun and doing what I want to do. But it got to be a little dicey when you're shooting at the Orpheum in Omaha, or you're shooting in Miami Convention Center to fly across country and be back to work the next day. So.
Well, that's right, because you were LA based.
Yeah, we're in LA.
Not New York.
We were in LA.
Well, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was fun.
Are you headed back to your table?
I guess. I'm gonna grab a soda.
I'll meet you back over there because I want to get an autograph.
Okay. I gotta think of it. Steve! Oh, man!
Well, I had trouble getting there, I sold my place last year.
How old are you? I just turned 85. Yeah, just this year's the first year it hit me. Everybody's going on about it. Don't I like honestly, but I had my next one, I was looking at the program, I mean, I would love to come around with this. Don't go off.
Oh, yeah. Well, the widening it out.
Is that your bag?
My best. I didn't choose my passport. It was fun. Is that? Oh, no, I got to bounce out because you're not bounce out. You don't have to take your body with us. It's a great outfit. It's terrific. And the eyes, you got contacts. Very cool. Yeah, sorry to bounce out. That problem from earlier.
I'll see you back over there.
Oh, yes, see you back over there.
Okay.
My coordinator, so yes.